Reality check. Thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe and all that other stuff, and help me grow the channel. We do have a private membership now, and so if you'd like more one-on-one and that kind of stuff, and I'm going to be teaching a course on alchemy eventually, and just join if you want to. It's not that much. And so today we're back to our reading of A Monument to the End of Time. We are on chapter 3, section 4, Constantine and the Orthodox Apocalypse. All right. Even the Chalaeus and other Gnostic Christians agreed with Hippolytus, Bishop of Porto, who calculated the history of the world and found that Rome could only be the empire of the Antichrist. He thought his calculations proved that a century or so was left before the apocalypse. This was heralded as good news. The Christians had so far not been doing well in their mission of converting the world. They felt that they could use a bit more time before the end. For the first 2.5 centuries of Christianity's existence, Imperial Rome had been the great enemy, the government of the evil king of the world, the Antichrist. And then, in the second decade of the 4th century, something very strange happened. A would-be king of the world won a battle outside the gates of Rome and attributed his victory to the power of Christ. The Battle of Mulvion Bridge made Constantine an emperor, and with him, Christianity became the imperial religion. The sudden reversal must have seemed truly miraculous to the Christians themselves. The early years of the 4th century saw the worst Christian persecution of the Roman era. Even bishops of the church had been forced to renounce their faith. Christianity had begun to disappear in large portions of the Eastern Empire. In the West, the persecutions had actually served to increase the number of Christians. Constantine used this fact as a political tool. At Mulvion Bridge, his convenient espousal of Christianity was worth a dozen legions, he later remarked to Eusebius, his biographer. Flavius Valerius Constantinus, or Constantine, was an imperial freebooter in the great tradition of Julius Caesar and Octavius Augustus. Born the son of one of the 4 imperial Caesars, appointed to the last great pagan emperor, Diocletian, Constantine plowed his way through the political intrigue that resulted from Diocletian's abdication in 305 CE. On the afternoon of October 27, 312 CE, Constantine trapped his last opponent, the Christian-hating Maxentius, against the Tiber at Saxa Rubra, Red Rocks, with only one avenue of escape, over Mulvion Bridge. In effect, the battle decided the fate of both the empire and Christianity. The two had become inexplicably entwined. On the afternoon before the battle, Constantine had seen a vision. While positioning his legions for the next day's battle, Constantine saw a flaming cross in the sky with the Greek words "en tourtai nika," in this sign victory. That night, he dreamed that Christ appeared and commanded him to make the flaming cross his battle standard. Constantine awoke and called for his metalsmiths. He told them his dream and ordered them to prepare a new standard, one composed of the first 2 Greek letters of Christ, chi, an X, and a sort of crooked staff. I'll show you what this is. That's what it looks like. Any Catholic knows they've seen this in their church. Under the new standard, Constantine's army drove Maxentius' legions into the Tiber, where most of them died. Constantine entered Rome and now proclaimed the Emperor of the West. Gog of Gog and Magog, the evil rulers of the world, according to Hebrew eschatology, was now at least nominally a Christian. Soon after his victory in early 313, Constantine met with Eastern Emperor Licinius and issued an edict confirming the religious toleration proclaimed by one of the earlier Caesars or tetrarchs of Diocletian and proclaimed, hang on, I'm going to do that over again. Soon after his victory in 313, Constantine met with the Eastern Emperor Licinius and issued an edict confirming the religious toleration proclaimed by one of the earlier Caesars or tetrarchs of Diocletian and expanded it to include all religions, even the Christians. This was the end of the great persecutions and the beginning of the meteoric rise in the fortunes of Orthodox Christianity. By 323 CE, Constantine had finally united by conquest both halves of the empire. He soon moved the capital to Byzantine, later to become known as Constantinople. Orthodox Christianity had become the official religion of the state. Constantine, guided by his ambiguous vision, chose the winning side. It was the Orthodox Church's insistence on obedience and conformity that appealed to Constantine. He needed a new form of universal religion with which to unite his vast empire, and Orthodox Christianity filled the bill nicely. But soon, almost as soon as Constantine and orthodoxy, it was threatened by the most challenging heresy in the history of the church. A pious and ascetic Egyptian priest by the name of Arius startled his bishop with his strange opinion about the nature of Christ. Arius argued that Christ could not be one with the Creator, but was rather the Logos, the first and the best of all created beings. Since Christ had inhabited time, been born, lived, and died, that he could not be co-eternal with God. A creation had occurred somewhere, and therefore Christ was not the same substance as his Father. The Holy Spirit, Arius insisted, was even less God than Christ, since it was a creation of Christ, and therefore twice removed from the substance of God. 1 second here. Very dry here right now. We haven't had rain in months. Bishop Alexander called a council and excommunicated Arius and his followers. This created such a widespread religious turmoil that Constantine himself had to step in and settle it. In a letter to both parties, Constantine declared that the dispute was, quote, trifling and unworthy of such fierce contests, unquote. But the Orthodox Church could see it that way. To them, the matter of consubstantiality versus similarity, a matter of an iota in the Greek words homonatia and homonatia, was vital both politically and theologically. If Christ were not seen as God, the whole structure of the Orthodox chain of command would crumble. If anything happened to the unity of the church, its usefulness to the imperial state would vanish. Settling the issue became a matter of life and death for the imperial orthodoxy. Constantine resolved to end the dispute by calling the first ecumenical or universal church council at Nicaea in 325 CE. Constantine presided in person over the debates and, according to Eusebius, moderated the violence of the contending parties. Arius presented his view, but Athanasius, the hired theological gunslinger brought in by Bishop Alexander, made it absolutely clear that if Christ and the Holy Spirit were not considered the same substance as God, then polytheism would triumph. With that, the bishops folded and agreed on a new universal creed that declared the Trinity to be of one essence, that is, the same substance. Unity was enforced by banishment and anathema. The Orthodox imperial church had embarked on its own pattern of persecution. All books by or about Arius were burned. By imperial decree, concealment of such a book was punishable by death. The Dark Ages had begun. Constantine, the most nominal of Christians and a good candidate for the Antichrist, became instead the new Christ model of the Catholic, Orthodox, and Imperial Church, the Christian Pantocrator. Christ, the ruler of the universe, the demiurge, had become the Messiah, and 1,000 more years of spiritual oppression and persecution lay ahead. The end of the world had become an institution of the church. All right, so the whole idea of Constantine's conversion is dubious at best. His mom sort of liked Christianity, and so she visited Jerusalem a few years before Constantine's conversion. And one of the Christians took her up to where Christ supposedly died at Calvary, Mount Calvary, and he pointed out to her that there was a piece of wood on the ground, and she picked it up, and he said, "Oh, that's probably from the cross of Christ." And so Constantine's mother thought that she had, a piece of wood from Christ's crucifixion, and took it back and made an altar and worshipped it. And this had a big effect on her young son, Constantine, not because Constantine believed in the spirituality of Jesus, and the whole idea that a piece of wood could last 300 years is ridiculous, but he saw the devotion and the obedience that his mom had to this new religion, and that appealed to him. And so that's when he decided that he would make Christianity the nominal religion of the new imperial Rome. Ironically, Rome itself doesn't have that much further to go as far as it becoming an imperial dynasty. 325 is the Council of Nicaea. By 525, Rome was pretty much dissipated. The Byzantium Empire had taken over, and supposedly, it could be that Rome spread out. One of my theories is that Rome realized that it was losing the Mediterranean to various forces, and it moved to Spain and Portugal and began conquering the world from there. The problem with the chronology of time is that we're not taking into account some things like the fact that between 400 AD and 1400 AD, the so-called Dark Ages, nothing advanced. Boat technology, ship technology did not advance, weapon technology did not advance, building technology did not advance. We have 1,000 years supposedly where nothing advances, and that's seriously troubling to me. So there's something right in that time period. It has to do with the beginning of Christianity, or not the beginning of Christianity, the solidifying of Christianity into the government imperial power of Rome. And 1,000 years seems to be not, missing or something in this. So we're going to continue with the regular historical timelines, but there are odd things going on. So I believe the Council at Nicaea was a seminal event in Western history, but also was the end of a deeply spiritual tradition that Christianity was holding, and instead it just became another government function. So anyway, that's it. I'm Jay Widener. I'm reading from A Monument to the End of Time. Again, the battle standard that he had was this, and this is very interesting. Before I go on, I explain this. This is what you see in Catholic churches. The Pope holds a staff with this on it, and what it is, if you think about it, it's the four directions, and then up and down, and the P is like the pole. So it's the North Pole, South Pole, East, West, South, and North, and the directions. And this is going to become, because exploring here in the near future is how all these symbols present a way of finding yourself in the cosmos. In other words, how would you create an address for planet Earth that everyone could use. And I believe that that is what these symbols are trying to convey, both the tree of life, the Kabbalah, the standard from Constantine. These are all models for cosmological patterns. And we'll get into that. I know it sounds rather strange now, but as we go forward, we will get into what that means. Anyway, I'm Jay Widener. This is Reality Check, and thanks for watching.